Obviously, we could move past this slide, and I'm assuming everybody on this call can read, so I'm not going to read this thing to you, but I will talk a little bit about it. The first slide here I found very interesting as I was looking at this, and this is comparing the advantages of gangs versus law enforcement. And Vincent, just yeah, sort of move through all this on this one slide. So with okay, let me just do this line by line here. I think there's one more. Yeah, there you go. So gangs are growing very, very fast. Um, I was really very interested in the gentleman that was talking about cults. Um, there certainly are cult-like qualities in gangs. I think it may be a little bit more than that, but there's no question that there's at least that much. And gangs don't have a resource problem. If they need more money, they steal something. They're very deep into all sorts of trafficking, sex, drugs, you name it, extortion. They need more money, they get it. The only rules that they have are their own. They don't care about our rules. Loyalty, extremely important. And when I say confidentiality, they kill people they consider snitches. Those are pretty compelling rules, I suppose, if you're in a gang. They have an offensive advantage. They can go after whatever they want, wherever they want, whenever they want. And they actually do it very strategically, as I've learned. They're using a lot more technology than they ever have. And I mean things like even using drones to drop illicit goods into prisons, but way more than that. And really their biggest problem is that they're really quite antagonistic one to the other. You belong to a gang, and if you're in a prison, and gangs have taken over a lot of prisons, and you're going to steer clear of other gangs because violence erupts very quickly. So if you can contrast this to law enforcement, where gangs are growing very fast, law enforcement and corrections are having a very tough time recruiting people and retaining people. And some of the people that they're actually recruiting are people who shouldn't be cops and shouldn't be corrections officers. It's a very, very tough thing because these are not good jobs. These are dangerous, underappreciated. The entire defund the police motion, which I think largely fizzled, um, was seen as a real punch in the gut to law enforcement. They were very offended, and so it just makes it very hard. Um, they don't have infinite resources. Law enforcement and corrections are competing against every other branch of government for money. Um, in terms of rules, they have nothing but rules. They're following the law. They have their own practices that they have to adhere to. They can sit there and be attacked, and they have to be very careful about not brutalizing a prisoner. And I think that's right, but it certainly weighs on them. So where the gangs have no rules, they have nothing but rules. In terms of offensive advantage, they have none. They're almost always on the defensive. They're almost always responding to incidents after they occur. Um, Law enforcement has some technology available, and it can be a real advantage, but often it's not funded. I was really kind of amazed talking to a state police officer here who was talking about technology where they could identify a car based on a dent in the fender. There are cameras that are picking up on that sort of thing, and yet this state police officer, his cruiser doesn't even have a cage to put people that he's arrested in. He has to have them handcuffed right next to him while he's driving. Scares the heck out of him, and it's just very, very hard on these guys. Gangs are at war, of course. Law enforcement generally is aligned. They cooperate. There's some complaining back and forth. So, Vincent, next slide, please. So, we're focused on the Commonwealth of Virginia, partly because I live here, and so does Garth. Um, And it is a place where there's a very large concentration of technology and data centers and these new AI compute clusters. In fact, Northern Virginia is there's more of it here than any place else in the world. But the technology industry is here in large numbers, partly defense, aerospace, and the rest. Of course, we're right next to the nation's capital. Almost all the law enforcement agencies have their headquarters right here or in Maryland, but right in this region, all the national organizations, national police chiefs, sheriffs, you go on and on and on. It's all right here. Most of it is in Northern Virginia. There are two exceptionally sophisticated not-for-profits that I'll talk about that are doing an excellent job, actually, of anticipating crime. But what they're doing is dealing with just one part of crime. There's a lot to be learned from them, but they're both right here in Virginia. And one of the things that's exciting is that the Commonwealth, that's what we call Virginia, not a state for some reason, the state government is very much open to start using technology to do a better job here. Next slide. Oh, it's not a question is why. Well, this is something. I mean, here we live in Virginia. Everybody thinks it's the ideal place. When I was growing up as a kid in New Jersey, never having been to Virginia, I always dreamed of living in Virginia for some reason. Just sounded like a cool place. Um, but we are sort of microcosm, I suppose, of America. We have very, very rural areas. We have very rich suburbs, a lot of rural poverty, military, on and on and on it goes. And what we have here is not good. Just since 2014, look at the increase in the number of gangs. Violent crimes up here. And while it's down in a lot of other places, now it's way down in Washington, D.C., but it was very, very high. So they had more reason, more ability to drop. But in Virginia, it's up. Um, Gang activity here. Tyson's Corner, I don't know how many of you have ever heard of it. It is a very, very high-end shopping center just a couple of miles north of where I am right now. And they've had shootouts, gang shootouts at Tyson's. And it's much worse in rural communities where there are no, the police presence is very small. Um, and so it's really permeated our businesses here. Um, Gang violence in Virginia prisons out of control. Pretty much everywhere it's out of control. And they gangs are very well organized in prisons. There are entire crime rings being operated out of prisons. Uh, Sex trafficking. Oh my gosh. Here we are in Fairfax County, one of the wealthiest places in the United States. There's an organization that tracks this very carefully. They call it illicit massage businesses. These are brothels. It is sex trafficking at its absolute worst. And so, why in Fairfax County, of all places? Well, because you have rich men, of course, men who have the money and the time to engage in this kind of garbage. Next slide, please. So, the problem, and again, I said in the earlier comments. I'm not an expert in this. I'm somebody who's been studying it and talking to an awful lot of people about it, and I'm beginning to gain some insights into it. But there's some things here that are pretty common. One is competition for tax dollars. That's a lot of people say that's the problem. The cops don't have enough money. Look, corrections doesn't have enough money. But of course, the schools don't have enough money, and it's hard to disagree with any of them. The siloing of data. People are very jealous about sharing data, and sometimes with good reason. And a lot of times data is abused. And so people are saying, well, that's fine for you, but I'm not going to share mine. Cultural and political differences. Um, A lot of people have very different takes on this, and some of it's quite political. And even though this is unpolitical, the real world is largely political. And what we have here, just looking at this problem, are people who, on the one hand, say, parents are doing a rotten job, and then schools are doing a rotten job, and the police are too brutal. And a lot of this is cultural. And it correlates, I think, in several studies to educational differences, certainly, but also, I mean, I know PhD corrections experts and law enforcement people, very bright, well-educated people who share some of these very strong opinions too. None of us like change, except other people changing. All of us fear being wrong. And then what you have, and there was a lot of discussion of this in the last uh, workshop, is money. Everybody has the solution. All these technology companies have the solution. The only way you can fix this is XYZ. And half of them don't even know what the problem is. And I will tell you that when you talk to the people who are dealing with this, most of them don't have any idea either. They have their own views of it. So you have all of these competitive technologies fighting over limited dollars, and it really undermines a true solving of this problem. Whatever the problem is. And I want to say this because I think some of you missed what I said earlier in the few minutes between the two, is that Pew research, which I depend on often for fairly decent public opinion research, just published a list of the top 20 policy concerns of the American public. Climate's not on it. Environment at a very, very broad level is like what number 13, and everything else was economics and crime. And so, something to think about is to understand why that is. Why is it that people are so concerned about crime and not at all concerned about climate? You can't just simply say it's stupid. It's how people feel. So, in any event, moving on here, if I may, Vincent. So again, everybody's convinced, and I think I've already just covered all this, all sorts of reasons. Okay, keep going. And I've been having this discussion now for quite a while with this guy, David Reed. I know him because my wife and I help support an organization that deals with foster care. And at one of their meetings, he sat next to me, and he's elected representative from Loudoun County. And he was raised in the orphanage that they originally were and went into foster care. Here's a guy who's actually lived a life that very few of us could imagine in terms of deprivation of parenting, having a feeling of family. And he is one of the finest people I think I've ever met. He went on from that, joined the military because he saw that as a good way, breaking out of all of it. He went into technology. He ends up representing Loudon, which is, as I think a lot of you know, the really the global hub of data centers at the moment. And in the legislature, he chairs a bunch of things, or is a member of a bunch of things that really matter legislatively. So when you start thinking about next steps, how are we going to take a concern we have and convert it into something that actually changes the world? It goes through a legislative process sometimes. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it stops, sometimes it moves very quickly. But it almost always depends on who is pushing it forward. Now, I'm not just speculating here. My entire career was lobbying at the federal level, state level. I have been involved in treaties, and I have found very, very little difference among these things, it always comes down to having somebody who really knows the system on the inside and is committed to doing something, and then takes the time to build the support and listen and improve what you're doing. And David's that guy, and he's very committed to using technology to do a better job of protecting people. But his chairmanship of the Small Business Commission turned out to be very important here. You might say, well, who cares about small businesses? Well, as it turns out, Vincent,
Oh, do you want next slide?
no, this actually was what I was looking
Oh,
for.
okay, got it.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah. Um, 90, almost all the businesses in Virginia are small. And so when you're talking about his portfolio being chairman of something that matters, uh, this matters a great deal. And you're going to find that in most places around the world, small businesses are in fact what hires people, where we shop, what we do. A lot of it depends on the definition of a small business. IBM is not a small business, but anything with probably under about 100 employees is captured in the so next slide. So he has drafted something, and I've worked with him on this, and it's already drafted. It's going to be shopped this year. Uh, Virginia has a very short legislative session. It's just a few months. And so he could have introduced it, but it wouldn't have made any progress so quickly. The best way to do this from a lobbying standpoint is you start going around and building support for it, getting better ideas. But the concept here, and I have a lot of confidence that David is going to get this all the way through. He's a Democrat. He's close to the government. The the governor is Democrat. Senate's Democratic. The House here, the Assembly is Democratic. He'll get this thing through. And what he wants to do is set up a special technologies group. Um, and it will have an advisory committee, and it will be really looking at this problem from a technology standpoint. Um, but bringing together all the people who have really not done a great job of cooperating within state government, and sort of forces that question. Next slide. And and to augment that, and this is something Garth and I are working on with David, a not-for-profit that will support this new technologies group in state government. The new this new agency in state government will have a small staff, but what they will lack is the ability to really stay on top of technology developments, what's commercially available, what's nonsense, what's not, and artificial intelligence, which just I don't know, just in the interest of transparency, I actually am very involved in, and I have major concerns about, but I can tell you it's an enormously valuable tool when it's used properly. Will be part of this. There's no question, and it should be part of it. But what we're looking at here is being able to bring in a very, very wide variety of people uh, to help work on it together and to advise this state agency. And then going back to why this is important in Virginia, because we're close to DC, because we can do it here, uh, and because there's such a strong tech community and the political support appears to be terrific. I'm not sure if I have any more, Vincent, do I? I think I have one slide more. So yeah, if people are willing to help, sure. We're certainly not excluding anybody. We're looking for smart people. We're looking for people who are smarter than us, right, Garth?
Well, there's plenty of those. So,
Yeah, I was going to say that's a low bar, but
yeah.
but in any event, and in all sorts of ways, and this not for profit will be membership supported. There's some very large corporations, I have no doubt, that will jump in, and so that's what we're doing. And somebody by the name of Matthew said, "What project is this part of?" I'm not sure I understand the question.
I
What is?
wouldn't take questions yet. Just
Okay, okay.
let's shift back
Oh,
to,
okay. He just explained it. Go ahead. So that's it as far as I've got it.
okay. All right. So, let's go back to the tail end of my slides and we'll set up how we want to use our remaining time. Okay, so this is where you all come in. We've got about 45 minutes total left. And again, 15 at the end to kind of bring it back to what's next. So, yeah, so and Yanir, I might need your either your help or your advice on some of this. We currently have, 38 people. Option one is just stay big and just take inputs as they come. Option two is to go into a couple of smaller Zoom rooms, maybe three or four. I don't know how many y'all can support. Give people the prompts and then come back. So anyway, Yanir or the group, is there a sense of the group that you would like to be in small groups and work on our prompts in small groups and report out? I guess we'll take any.
I think it would be good to break up into groups. Why don't we do that since you're suggesting it? I think we
Okay.
can do about 6 or 7 groups. Can someone set that up? Probably 6 groups, I would guess.
Six
Okay.
breakout rooms?
6 breakout rooms, and you can
Yes.
find people at random. And
Okay.
That's great. And that's a good size. So six times six gives you
would
about in a
I would
room.
do it for um, do we want to do 12 minutes? Let's do 12 minutes.
Okay. And then we will, so next slide, Vincent. Um, so before you, sorry, sorry, bad, my bad. Um,
While he's
back
setting it up, maybe we'll take a comment from Steve and then we'll go.
previous slide, not next slide. Uh,
Yeah, so
okay.
for me, I just wanted to say something before everybody gets into groups that I've done a lot of work on trafficking. I'm not an expert on gangs, but I look at gangs as a subset of my work as commercial cults.
Mhm.
And so what I wanted to say is that for me, the ground up thing is really psychoeducation and using former members of cults,
Mhm.
and in this case, former gang members, educating them, training them, and working with former members is really important. And lastly, for me, the big picture is a public health emergency where we inoculate people about how to detect and protect their mind from undue influence, specific trainings for clinicians, teachers, media, politicians about how the mind can get hacked, and then recovery for people leaving authoritarian groups who are realizing this doesn't work for them, and amplifying those people's voices for
Yeah.
everybody else. So thank you for letting me say something in here.
Yes.
Can I
And
respond to that, Garth, or should we hold it?
I want
What he said really resonated with me.
it did me too.
But
I want to go first and then you, but
okay,
so,
you go, go, go.
uh, so Stephen, A, thank you. B, that is a model for the kind of insight helping us think better that we're looking for. C, I'll just cut to the chase now. Are you willing to sit down for an hour sometime over the next 6 months for Peter and I and whoever else to come interview you and go deeper on what you're thinking and offering?
Absolutely. My problem is I'm so overcommitted with doing my what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I am best used, but hour here, hour there.
Okay.
And then when Yanir invited me to this, I'm like, yeah,
Okay.
complex systems experts. Yeah.
All
So
right,
for
cool.
sure.
Okay,
But I
great.
encourage you to scan my dissertation because in it, I talk about Shefflin's social influence model as a frame that looks at the vulnerability of the influencee and the predator and the predatory organization and how they use the BITE to control. And my sense is with gangs is people know that it's a gang and it's largely the exploitative commercial stuff that gets them because they don't see any other options necessarily. But otherwise, it's the same. It's another variation of an authoritarian cult.
All right, let's
Okay.
let's go ahead
Okay.
and start the rooms because
Okay.
I think we want to do that, right, Garth?
Yes, and then for Sharon or Vincent, can you copy that slide and paste the text into each of the Zoom groups so they've got like the prompts in front of them?
Yes, we'll work on that. And we're going to automatically assign people to the breakout rooms. There's 6 of them. And Garth and Peter, if you want to make sure that I don't know if you want to cycle among the rooms, that's fine. We'll do them for 10 minutes and then there'll be a 30-second warning and then everybody will come back. Does that sound right? Or do you want to do a couple
That's
more
fine.
minutes? That's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Sharon, I just took myself out of the breakout room because I've not been listening. I've been doing some stuff.
Yeah, no worries. That's okay.
So
Yeah,
I'll rejoin
no
before
worries.
Marshall gets here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks.
And Vincent, do you have that can you copy and paste that slide he is asking for? I was trying on the if you put it in the chat, I'll go to some rooms too.
That's what I'm gonna do, yeah.
Okay.
So it's this one, I don't know. Is it like if you click on it, is it fine? Can you
Yes,
download?
yep, I think so. Yep. So I will go ahead and download that. I'll give it to rooms 6, 5, and 4, and will you give it to the first ones?
Sure.
Okay.
Sharon? I think they. I don't see it. Sharon,
Yes.
I don't see them in the chats.
You don't see them in the chat? Let's see.
No, I thought that they might be here, but I don't see.
It's Vincent. Do you see he shared the slide in there? It shows for me.
I'm not seeing it here, and maybe that will also appear in the meeting group chat and team. Okay, I don't see it.
Okay, let me see.
I don't. Let me go back to the room though. I should go back there.
All right, let me see if I
What
can.
happened to my Connie here?
Hello, Vincent? Vincent? Can you send me back to my room? I accidentally hit the leave breakout room button.
I also, same happened to me,
I
and
think your whole
I
room
think,
got closed for some
yeah,
reason.
I think
Oh,
we're all back now. Well, we're going to be all
I,
back.
I was about to offer to sing, but I won't.
I was gonna sing Officer Krupke too, but we could do a duet.
Okay, so just real quick, uh, this is a loaded question. You can tell my experience. Did everybody feel like they had enough time to do anything justice in the 10 minutes?
Probably not.
I think we understood what the question was in the 10 minutes.
Okay. All right.
No.
Yeah, well, Yanir, so we need to reserve the 15 minutes at the end. Can we do can we go into the same groups for another 5 minutes,
We
maybe?
actually don't have the ability to do that probably because the
Oh,
system is only designed to do random. My suggestion would
okay.
be, um,
Yeah.
if we can, I don't think it's so bad to have people go into different rooms,
Okay.
because there's a lot of different combinations that we might explore, and then um, people can continue to make comments on what they were thinking about. But again, this is just the starting of a process. It's not going to be the process. It's just to initiate it.
Okay, great.
Near we
Yeah.
might not need to recreate, but we might just open all rooms and people might want to go back. I'm
Back
just,
to the room that they were in. Yeah, if you remember the number of the rooms, why don't we just open them up and let people choose which room?
For some reason, it's not letting me open them back up. Vincent, do you want to try? Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right. So I think with Yanir's consent or permission, I think what I'd like to do is you can self-select, but one from each group. We had like 6 groups. Just give us, you know, 1 minute, 2 minutes, a sense of what came out of your group that was insightful. Does that sound good?
Sure.
All right. Group 1.
Well, since nobody else is speaking up, our group talked largely about stopping the flow of youth into gangs by uh, perhaps something as dramatic as an obligatory National Civilian Conservation Corps or public service that might include military for youth, giving them skills and even radically reimbursing them by giving them a house and some land title when they graduate.
Okay. All right. Right there. Something I wouldn't have dreamed of. So that's great. Okay. Group 2.
Matthew, I think that we'll let you do the talking.
Sure. Yeah, we touched
Yes.
a number of things. Highlighted that youth is a variable in this. You know, it is youth going into gangs, the ones who are recruited, the ones who are, don't have. We also talked about opportunities, like economic opportunities. Lack of those seems to drive people there. We talked about law enforcement. You know, some of the ways in which hands are tied, or it's difficult to deal to organize. We also talked about small business strengthening. That's a key part. There's many things in the local scene, but small businesses are important, and they're on the back foot. But most people are the majority of people actually work in small businesses,
Yeah.
and that's part of economic opportunity.
Okay. On the law enforcement hands tied, was your thought to loosen the tying or to reform or regulate how the hands are
We,
tied?
it
What was your
wasn't
thought there?
wasn't super in depth. It was just me more noting that there was a list of things Peter presented.
Yeah, yeah.
I noted that social media and perception, is a huge thing, that it's hard for anybody in any public facing role. They always have to consider whether they're going to go viral. You work at a fast food restaurant. Is
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
going to take a video of you? You're going to be famous or infamous. Law enforcement is very aware of that. So it makes it hard to recruit people. Makes
yeah.
it hard to do the job.
Okay. Thank you. Helpful. All right. Group 3.
I can say a few words, although I hope other people in the group will jump in because I might miss a couple things. I think we kind of came to the question of two things. First of all, that what are these gangs giving to these young people? It's clearly meeting some important needs, and what we're looking at from the outside is the fighting and the violence and the breaking the law, but it's clearly also meeting some needs that no one else is meeting for these kids. And so we need to think about that and learn, or at least I don't know enough about it. I'm sure other people know about it. And I'm just drawing a blank. Someone else want to jump in? I'm drawing a blank. The other point was I was going to make. And how do we think about this not in terms of the police versus the gangs? Because I don't see how you're going to win on that one. I think we need to broaden out, and I think we talked about broadening out the question. The police have a lot of their own concerns, problems. Leora addressed a lot of them. Just gave us, a list of problems with the police, particularly in these kinds of contexts. And so, how do we think about this not being police versus gangs, but everybody versus a bigger problem?
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Thank you. All right, group 4. Oh, sorry. I'll do group 4. So I think 2 big things came out. One was from John Hanley, a notion of using the concept of wargaming from our former lives, but I think John's term for it was policy games for strategy management. And then John specifically thought we should, back to Nassim Taleb's comment about counties different than state, different than city, different than, rural's different than urban, blah, blah, blah. Use those kinds of games to illuminate how scale matters and how it's different. And then even to the point of recruiting, and this gets back to Stephen Hassan, former gang members to be players in those games so we can, represent whatever the alternative point of view. Then Ambrosio hit on the ideas of designing whatever system we're talking about to be resilient and anti-fragile, borrowing a page from Nassim Taleb as well. One thing was decentralized modular approach to our regulatory approach. Okay. All right, I'm done. Group 5.
Yeah, I think I agreed to do this. Our group agreed that we were not very knowledgeable about gangs, but we did remember West Side Story. The prime thing we've thought about was, again, in the spirit of complexity, that it's worth asking about diversity amongst gangs. What kind, how, what kinds of different gangs are there in size, age composition, length of survival? There are many, many variables that ignorant academic discussion could evoke. And some of them are probably relevant. So we'd urge you to just think about what the mapping of different kinds of gangs tell you. And then I also wanted to mention a new book, which I haven't read, but I read reviews of that looked relevant, which is a study by Robert Sampson of Chicago. They've got longitudinal data from the 70s or so and shows marked time dependence that you might attribute to sociological changes. And these might offer suggestions for variables that would be of interest.
Okay, that's very helpful. And again, something I never would have dreamed of on my own, so I appreciate that. And I may come back to you if I can't find that book. And I think group 6. Sorry. Was there a group 6? Okay, maybe not.
I think that was group 6.
Oh,
You
that
were
was
group
group 6.
5, and I think that was group 6.
There was a group 6.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Sorry. I was actually waiting for Dr. Stephen Hassan to speak because I thought that he was the most knowledgeable in things that were related, but I can talk. Basically, I think that what we spoke of with the prompts, I think we all got a little lost in it because those aren't our top areas of expertise. But two things that came up is the idea that we need to be talking about, I think in smaller scale, community by community, because each community's gangs are formed for different reasons, even though gangs can be structured and united over large territories and even countries. But the needs of the communities that are met by joining a gang have a lot to do with where we are in society now, and it's filling a communal need. So answering those questions with AI is kind of the opposite of what we saw as being useful, because what's usually missing is the actual human to human contact. And as human animals, we do not communicate the same way online as we do within groups. Our communication is with things that our five senses aren't acknowledging the same way that it is with animals. That the heat, the environment, the moods of people, these all influence. But there's another issue within communities that in a lot of ways, people are seeing more and more police as just another gang. And so we're living in communities where you're going to have to join some gang or you don't survive. We need communities to survive, and everyone agrees on this. So if it's the police, you're going in with, there's a distrust of the police, there's a distrust of the authority and who gets punished and who does not. And so there has to be something done about that, about you increase the trust because you eliminate Proud Boys and neo-Nazis from joining the police force, and they present themselves more as peacekeepers than one of the other gangs. And that's been a consistent problem, I think, with the perception of policing and what its functionality is. So I think that would be one of the number one things, is the police have to present and actually have to be the peacekeepers of society and the communities that they live in, rather than just another gang. So I think those were the main takeaways that we discussed.
So let me interrupt just a moment. Marshall is here, Marshall Gans, who will be conducting the next workshop. We do want to take a break of about 5 minutes between this workshop and the next. Could you, Garth and Peter, sum up the status and invite people perhaps to meet again?
Yeah. So I think Pete laid out the status. We are working with Delegate David Reed to help draft and shape what legislation becomes, as well as a not-for-profit underneath that legislation that helps operationalize that. That's my best word. So specifically, and if I can get some help from the Nexi staff, if you would like for us to come interview you in the next 6 months, please do the hand raise button.
I think the best thing is to drop a note into the chat. I think that'll be easier right now.
Okay, and just say
everyone can do that asynchronously, and I think that'll.
Okay.
Is that going to solve the problem of doing the coordination? Because I think that's a good solution.
Yeah, as long as we have a record. Yeah, and just say yes, whatever. Yes, willing to be interviewed. Yes, interview, something like that. And then Pete, do you want to talk more about kind of next steps beyond what I've said, or you good?
Well, for me, the next step's going to be thinking hard about some of the very smart things I heard.
Okay.
The comments from the last speaker about the police being like another gang is actually quite legitimate from what I have seen. But I happen to live in a town where the police department functions exactly the way she was describing it should, in a very respectful, helpful way. And so it's not like we're not without models. It's not like we're not without good people. And I totally agree with what she was saying. It has to be done at a community level, really talking to people. Technology could be a real big help, but it's not going to be a substitute for that.